Hi, everybody. Mitch Tanenbaum here. Thanks for joining me today. This is this week's security news update. On the video blogs, by the way, if you're not already checking out, which you probably are, cybersecurity.us, we have a new video today on the threat of text messaging scams. Under security and privacy alerts, Microsoft is having a bit of a problem with this month's updates, causing BitLocker to go into recovery mode. Now, the good news is you don't lose any data, but that's only true if you know where your BitLocker recovery keys are. So for some users, and the Microsoft's not saying how many, and it didn't happen to me on any of my machines, so I don't know. Is going into BitLocker recovery mode, you must enter your BitLocker recovery key. And if you do, everything is fine. Well, why that's happening is because BitLocker thinks something changed, and as a result of that, it goes in kind of in a safety mode to make sure that you're really you. As long as you know where your recovery keys are, you're in good shape. If you don't, you're kind of in trouble. So the moral of this story is you need to know where your BitLocker recovery keys are. And for many people, they're stored in Active Directory, so that works pretty well. But you need to be able to get to them also when your system is down. So don't store them on the disk drive that you protected with BitLocker. That would not be a good plan. Next, also in alerts, Microsoft has revealed 4 bugs in OpenVPN, which is a free open source VPN software. Doesn't mean that the open source software is bad and evil. All software has bugs. Closed source, open source, any other kind of source, doesn't matter. But what does matter is if you are of the mistaken belief that open source software doesn't have any bugs, that ain't the case. It is software and has bugs. So apparently, this particular bugs, 4 of them, are pretty nasty. It would allow for both remote code execution, that is for a hacker in China to go off and execute code on your system, as well as taking over your system and then over your network. And it's fixed in the 2.5.10, 2.6.10 versions of OpenVPN. Next, in the software and hardware checkout, Google released the Pixel 9, the newest family of Pixel phones, and it's the first phone family from Google, in fact, in the Android world, period, to get satellite SOS. Apple has had it for about a year. I think Apple's only works with T-Mobile, but I'm not sure. This is also carrier independent, and this is one of those things that you don't need until it's an emergency, at which point it becomes a lifesaver. Right now, it's only available on the Pixel 9, but Google says that they are going to make it work on the 8 and the 7 as well, although there's not a time frame for when that's going to happen. They are working with a company that runs the satellites, which is Skylo. Skylo's business is providing internet access to maritime vessels, agricultural equipment, and apparently now Pixel phones. So that's pretty cool. Next, NIST is officially releasing their post-quantum encryption algorithms. Now, it's going to take a long time for everybody to incorporate this. I assume the browsers will be first, but that only helps if the servers that you're using support it as well. And, this is only going to be useful when there's something called a CRQC, a crypto-relevant quantum computer, which means quantum computer that's powerful enough to actually to break encryption. But what the bad guys are doing is they're hoovering up encrypted communications now with the hope that at least some of those communications will be useful whenever a crypto-relevant quantum computer is available. Next, in the patches department, I don't know that industrial control systems, those things that run factories and dams and power plants and all kinds of things like that, are any buggier than they used to be. It's just now we're finally hearing about it, which is a good thing. Those folks are probably at least 10 years behind the PC world, Mac world, personal computer, any flavor, and it's going to take a long time. The challenge is that you run the risk of breaking something and shutting down an entire factory until you can figure out how to fix it. So factories or bridges or power plants or whatever typically don't patch, which makes them very susceptible. So this one is part of the Rockwell industrial controller family that Control Logic 1756 and some others. They need to be patched. And, we're seeing these, 1, 3, 5, sometimes 9 or 10 patches being announced by the government, almost on a weekly basis. And almost none of these get patched. So that just means our critical infrastructure is there for the taking. And the hackers know that. And, they're saying, thank you very much. Until there's some financial incentive for all these critical infrastructure folks to patch, i.e. they're liable when they don't patch, probably not going to see any patching or any significant amount of patching going on until then. Next, Microsoft released their Patch Tuesday recently. There were 90 bugs that were patched, including 10 what are called zero-day, ones that haven't been publicly known before. Of those 10, 6 of them are being actively exploited already prior to the patches being announced. And I'm sure now that the patches are announced, the other 4 will be exploited as well. So, the real question is, how long do you wait? And, is the risk of waiting worse than the risk of patching early? Worried that, some patch might be buggy. And that happens, so, I can't argue with that, but the other side of that is, where's the risk trade-off? And, if you need some help figuring that out, we'd be happy to do that. We talked about, earlier, the BitLocker being thrown into recovery mode when you patched the patches for last month. And, there's a perfect example, right? So if I don't want to patch BitLocker yet because I'm worried that I may get, lose access to my computer. On the other hand, if I don't patch, then what does that mean for what the hackers can do? Next, let's see here. Multiple AWS floodings. It's not just Microsoft. Everybody gets this because all software has bugs. Cybersecurity researchers discovered multiple critical flaws in Amazon Web Services that, if successfully exploited, could do remote code execution, user account takeover, complete takeover, manipulation of AI modes, and exposing sensitive data, stealing data, denial of service. So nasty stuff. Amazon did fix these bugs between March and June, and then the researchers shared their findings just last week at Black Hat. So good news is, with the cloud world, you don't have to worry, for the most part, you don't have to worry about doing the patches. The cloud vendor does it. So not to worry here. In legislative and legal, geofence warrants, for those of you not familiar, are warrants that say, give me all the phones or computers or wireless devices that are emanating noise within this particular perimeter. It could be, for January 6th, it was, between the White House and the Capitol, or maybe on the Capitol grounds. The challenge is then the cops have to figure out, they get some very basic information about all those devices. And then the cops have to whittle that down, and then they give a much smaller list back to the carrier, and the carrier goes off and gives them a little bit more information. And finally, they get down to a really narrow view, and then the cops give them the names and the phone numbers and whatever else. The Fifth Circuit, which is typically pretty conservative, that covers places like Texas, Mississippi, and Louisiana, said that in concept, geofence warrants are unconstitutional. So that means that you can't do them in those 3 states. On the other hand, the Fourth Circuit, which is much less conservative, said, they're fine, whatever. That means that this is going to have to go to the old folks home in Washington, what you probably know of as the Supreme Court. And the Supremes will probably kick it down to the district court because they don't really like making decisions. Kind of goes against their religion. They just like to collect paychecks, not make hard decisions. And so we'll see what happens there. But there's definitely a likely opportunity here for this to go to the Supremes next year. In the meantime, assume that cops are not going to issue geofence warrants in those 3 states, but only in those 3 states. Texas, also on the legal front, is suing GM for selling driver data without permission. Now, I'm not generally much of a fan of Ken Paxton, the Attorney General in Texas. On the other hand, in this case, yeah, can go for it. So what happened was that if you bought a GM car and it had even a trial version of OnStar in it, they collect a bunch of data, right? If you have a paid version, they collect even more data. Now, GM, not wanting to leave money on the table, figured, well, we got this data on 16 million people. Well, let's sell it. Unfortunately, the AG in Texas said, well, you probably ought to get people's permission before you do that. And GM said, well, what we did is buried in that 50 pages of disclosures that nobody reads when you buy a car. And the judge said, I don't think that qualifies as giving people notice. So we shall see. GM has stopped doing that because, after all, it makes them look even worse for their lawsuit. But that doesn't get them out of the lawsuit. Next, former Colorado Mesa County Clerk Tina Peters was convicted. It took the jury only 4 hours, basically, to convict her of election tampering. She is an election denier, has been since Trump lost the last election. But she was also running as the county clerk. She was responsible for running the elections in places like Grand Junction, Colorado, for a total of maybe 150,000 people. So not a huge number, but still not insignificant. She was convicted of 4 felonies and 3 misdemeanors. She could get up to 22 and a half years. I doubt she'll get anywhere near that much, but I do suspect that she will get jail time. The fact that the jury came back that quickly is pretty amazing. There are a couple other charges that she didn't get convicted on, but still that she was convicted on those 7 charges total that quickly is pretty surprising. She said that she was collecting information for election denial kind of stuff, and so she had to turn off the cameras, the security cameras. She had to bring somebody in under false pretenses. She had to use somebody else's badge, which she swiped in order to get this person in without that person being identified, and a bunch of stuff like that. Needless to say, neither the Secretary of State nor the jury thought that was a legitimate argument, and she faces potentially up to, as I said, 22 and a half years. In the breaches department, carbon supplier Orion, and they sell carbon black to tire makers and battery makers and other people. They sent a wire for about $60 million to the wrong people. Oops. This is, what's called the business email compromise, where a hacker sends an official-looking email and somebody falls for it, and they wire money to the wrong people, and good luck getting it back. So they did not get it back, but it's a $60 million lesson, what can I tell you? By the way, if you need help protecting yourself against $60 million losses, none of us like to write checks for that amount of money, give us a holler. Next, from 60 million to 1.4 billion, that's the number of user accounts, that hackers leaked from the online services company Tencent, which is based in China. These guys know how to do things at scale. For now, the data does not appear to be that sensitive, but it does include things like, just phone numbers, which, can be useful to hackers, assuming they didn't already have all of them. Next, expect more foreign attacks before November. Politico received a bunch of emails hacked from the Trump campaign. And it's interesting, in 2020, I guess it was, 2016, the Trump campaign asked Russia to hack Clinton. Now they're saying, oh, this is really, really bad because the shoe is on the other foot, right? And they got hacked rather than the other guy, their opponent, getting hacked. And they said anybody that shares these emails is helping bad guys. I think the media figured out that they can't win no matter what they do. So at this point, at least, they're not sharing the emails, which is probably good for Trump. Next, researchers started looking for what they call secrets out in public, like on GitHub and places like that. Secrets include things like API keys for accessing other systems and passwords, user IDs and passwords, stuff like that. They found, in their looking in unprotected repositories, they found 171,000 of these secrets, which seems like a significant number. Of those 171,000, 50,000 still work. So that is significant, right? I mean, you don't want your credentials. And we've seen a number of hacks that have been based around, these kind of secrets being out in public. Next, Twitter's AI creates deep fakes of politicians and even of Elon. Kind of like Twitter, its AI tool, Grok, has no guardrails. So you can ask it to create a photo somebody did apparently of Trump flying a plane into the World Trade Center while the World Trade Center is on, the other tower is on fire. Someone did, and Grok did, and now a picture of Trump flying a plane into the Twin Towers. In addition, another example was they created a photo of Elon holding up a sign that says transgender resources can be a lifesaver or something like that. Now, that's kind of an inside the Beltway kind of thing, because he's notoriously anti-trans, and he's got a trans daughter who is alienated from him. So Congress is asking nicely Twitter, Meta, and those folks to get a handle on this, because if they don't, Congress is likely to go act. And, when Congress acts, nobody is safe. That could get really ugly really quickly. And last, in the news bites, the White House is working on a cybersecurity regime that would back up the insurance companies in case of a massive cyber attack of some sort. That would be good. The crypto bros who fawned all over Trump at the National Crypto Convention the other day in Nashville, figuring that Trump was a shoo-in, are now figuring, well, maybe it's not so shoo-y. We better cozy up to the other side too. We'll see how that works, but now you got crypto bros for anybody as long as it's for them. Airbnb, an Airbnb host, got an unexpected surprise, a $1,500 electric bill for a guest that's staying there for 3 weeks. The guest was rented the house to do crypto mining, and after they got caught at it and blah blah blah, they agreed to pay the electric bill. But they said that they made $100,000 in those 3 weeks, so paying a $1,500 electric bill, not a big deal. Kim.com, who, that's really his name, he legally changed his name, has lost, at least for the moment, his extradition battle back to the United States. He's been fighting it for about 12 years, and now that run may be over, and he may get extradited. And we've learned a lot more about the source of the 3 billion background check records that were breached. Turns out that a lot of them are for old people, sufficiently old that they are dead and have been dead for quite a while. So, there are significant numbers, like I think 150 million emails that are not duplicates of each other, stuff like that. But there's a lot of it which is irrelevant at this point, and some of it which is duplicates of other data, a lot of it which is duplicates. So, but still, it's a problem. So with that, thanks for listening. If you need help or advice, please reach out to us for sure. Until next time, thanks for listening, and stay safe.